Well, it's a huge pleasure to be here this afternoon, and thank you very much for the invitation to join you. And I have to say, I'm sort of just wowed by the amount of information that's been conveyed this morning. Now it's an opportunity to perhaps look at the New Forest in the context of commoning and common land across England. And I think many of us can be guilty, whether we're in the New Forest or outside, to seeing the two as separate due to the way the sort of commons registration took place in the 1960s. But that's certainly not the case, and there are so many similarities between commoning systems here and elsewhere. So the Foundation for Common Land is a small charity registered in 2013. We were about 6-7 years in gestation, and today we've got both past trustees and trustees, and our chair speaking. So Graham was one of our early founding trustees. We have Chris Short speaking later as our current chair. Lindsay is a trustee at the Foundation for Common Land, and Jenny is as well. So we're well represented today. So this is a map which Graham's already shown common land in England. As you can see, there is common land across England, in fact, in every single county. And what makes common land special, it's not simply its legal status as common land, but it's the act of commoning that takes place on that land. And I say to people who don't really get it, I say it would be a bit like if we still maintained 45 cathedrals across England, but there were no choirs in them. If you were simply maintaining the artefacts, the historical artefacts, but without having them as active places where activity takes place. So this is just showing New Forest 67% common land in terms of the national park, Yorkshire Dales 26%, the Lake District 28% common land, and Dartmoor 37% common land. So there's a huge amount of common land. In terms of common property, I'm a big fan of common property. Some of you may know the work of Eleanor Ostrom, first woman to win the Nobel Prize for Economics, on governance of common land. And common property has really, that creative tension between different interests is what's kept common land so special. So there's sort of, in terms of its equity, I mean, these sound rather grand, motherhood and apple pie, but, you know, access to resources, sustainability, the governance systems, that then people are adopting those governance systems, whether there's, you know, digital commons, oceans, so many areas of society now people are drawing on work of governance of common land, and well-being. And it's changed over the last 1,000 years, but certainly I would say they were as important now as they previously have been. I'm not expecting you to read the slide, but simply to show that from over 1,000, over 1,000 years, well, 800 to 900 years, the looking after of commons hasn't happened by chance. I think that the talks this morning have eloquently and more articulately than I can have explained the importance of continual intervention by people who care is what has kept commons as such special places. And we will continue to need to do this in the same way Lindsay has explained. Commoners will need to continue to have a voice. We also need to have advocates from outside the commoning community as well. And many of you, it's still great to see so many people here, hopefully will go away with a positive view about commons and common land. So that we've had, and it takes a long time to get an act around commoning. So we had commons mentioned in the Charter of the Charter of the Forest, and also then the Statute of Merton, and there was a lot of acts. Then, if we think of more recent times, there was a Royal Commission on Common Land reported in 1953. It took them until 1965 to have the first the Act of registering common land. People may say that certainly the Act wasn't perfect. It then took, and that dealt with part of the recommendations of the Royal Commission. It then took till 2006 to have the other parts of that Act brought into, the other parts of the recommendations brought into legislation, which is particularly around commons councils and works on commons. So the Charter of the Forest it's fantastic that it recognises the pre-existence of commoning and commoners' rights across land. I was reading something yesterday which indicated that in 1600 estimates are about 26% of England was common land. It's now 3%, and common land is still at risk. The reason I have to leave here early today is because I'm giving evidence in a public inquiry in Kendal tomorrow, where the Ministry of Defence is seeking to deregister 4,206 hectares of common land. So they'd already bought up the common rights, but they had made an undertaking to keep that land as common land. So in the event it wasn't going to be used for army training, then you could have the opportunity for rights being re-established. And there is still grazing on that land, but they have, for reasons best known to themselves, apart from the common one of power and control, not at all illustrated by this gun, have decided they'd like to deregister that. So the Open Spaces Society and the Foundation for Common Land, and as importantly, local communities are very much opposing this. And there are people, it's fascinating how the public are intrigued by this. So in September, this had publicity in The Observer, The Telegraph, The Guardian, The Times, and The Financial Times, this huge article in The Financial Times. And so the Foundation for Common Land, along with lots of other organisations, including many from the New Forest, have been working hard over and continue to work hard to keep commoning and the role of commoners in delivering the public benefits of common land high up in the public agenda. And those of you who will know Sir Desmond rather better than I do, or certainly know him by reputation, we were all absolutely delighted that the advocacy work of people in the New Forest, combined with work done by the Foundation, led to Sir Desmond Swayne making the first intervention in the second reading of the Agriculture Bill on the 10th of October. And I'm going to read a little bit of this out because I think it's so critical and it's so exciting that the role of the voice of commoning and people beginning to note the positive benefits. This is all a positive contribution. One of the reasons, Lindsay quite rightly said, is that people say, you would say so, wouldn't you? And one of the reasons the Foundation for Common Land decided to become a charity rather than an advocacy group for commoning was that it provides us with a slightly different role in the whole landscape of NGOs. So we aren't an advocacy group, we're not a lobby group for commoners, we're a charity seeking to enhance the public benefits of common land and the systems of commoning. And there are wonderful groups. There's the Federation of Cumbria Commoners, Federation of Yorkshire Commoners, there's New Forest Defence Association, there's the Dartmoor Commoners. There are all sorts of people who are doing amazing work locally. But by providing that national umbrella with a slightly overview role, we're seeking to complement the work that is done in different areas of the country. So Sir Desmond says, in the course of his remarks, will my right honourable friend reassure me that the bill will be a vehicle for the support of common land, which accounts for 20% of our areas of special scientific interest and nearly 40% of open access, but which is nevertheless the subject of fragile traditional systems? And Michael Gove responded, my right honourable friend makes an incredibly important point. Earlier this year, I had the opportunity to meet some farmers who farm common land in the Lake District, and the particular work that they and others who farm common land do to ensure both that traditional agricultural methods continue and that environmental benefits survive and are enhanced is critical. We can provide for them with enhanced methods of support. Clearly, we're capturing that and bottling it. But that is, to have that on Hansard is fantastic. So that was the visit. So here we've got this work by collectively working nationally, we can seek to deliver. So we've got the work of a New Forest MP, and then we had Michael Gove out on a common. He met with 3 commoners in March, the day that the World Heritage site of the Lake District was unveiled by the Prince of Wales, who has last year became the patron of the Foundation for Common Land. So we're delighted to have his support for our work. And there's some leaflets available in the room next door, and this is sort of on the inside. And we've been working with organisations with across England to try and get support for principles of commoning. And the answer is, why should we support this? And these are the sort of 4 key facts that we're promoting. So 39% of open access land is common land. So that means that if you think of only 3% of England as common land, so you're more than 10 times more likely to be open access land if you're common land. So being common land has protected open access. Your 11% of scheduled ancient monuments are on common, so almost 4 times more likely to have a scheduled ancient monument if you're a common. And 21% of our SSSIs are common land. There's 1 million hectares of SSSI in England. So 7 times more likely to be designated for nature conservation than if you're common than not common. So as we know, an enclosure of land, as has been rightly said this morning, has often led to single interests. And that doesn't mean it hasn't produced benefits. It may have fed people more efficiently, but it hasn't kept that complexity and that diversity of public benefits that commons do. And as others have said, change has always happened, but we do feel at this moment that change is perhaps happening at a pace that's rather faster, and there are questions about how the system will survive this change in pace. Now, again, you're not expected to look at this. We've got the dates down the side, 2019, 2020. And the key message to take home is that 2021 onwards, the basic payments, so direct payments, are being reduced. And by 2024, the basic payments that commoners receive will be halved. By 2027, they will end. Now, if you can see the orange circle, these are all DEFRA slides, that if you are lowland grazing livestock farmer, which most people in the New Forest are, 15% of your total revenue is likely to come from basic payments. It's probably higher in the New Forest because people have small amounts of land, but it's 15%, and in the uplands it's 21%. But interestingly, when we look at your farm business income, so your farm business's income is your profit before you have paid yourself, because most farmers are self-employed, so they pay themselves out of their profits. If we look at the lowlands, 94% of your profit, so your basic payment is equal to 94% of your profit, and your total profit on average is only £15,500. So if that's going to be halved by 2024, that means the payments are down to sort of £7,500. So, and in the uplands, it's 91%. And the reason I know you're not probably that interested in the economics of farming, but it is really critical to understand that commoning is undertaken by individuals who are running very, very marginal businesses. And if we would like people to continue commoning and to deliver those positive benefits, it's not going to happen for free. These are, as Martin Harper at the RSPB quite rightly said, what the government should be paying for is those items which are not paid for at the till. And most of the benefits commoners produce are not paid for at the till. So when we seek to frame this within government speak. So the government speak is the 25-year environment plan. We consider that commons can deliver thriving plants and wildlife. They can, which is one of the targets. They can enhance the beauty, heritage, engagement with the natural environment. They can mitigate and adapt to climate change, peat, bogs, wetlands. And they deliver valued cultural heritage, which is also in the 25-year Environment Plan, whether it's the Verderers Court or whether it's a shepherd's show in Borrowdale with James Rebanks doing the judging there. Some of you may have read Shepherd's Life. All this is part of our valued cultural heritage. And clean and plentiful water. So the question is what's next and what will this disruption cause? Well, we're looking at the impact on farm businesses, on local economy and communities, and on the public benefits from our most iconic landscapes. And the question is, how will it affect commoning? How do we secure the future? How do we motivate commoners to continue wanting to spend their weekends and their evenings after they've done a full-time job, spend that time looking after these precious areas? I don't know the figure for the lowlands, but we know that in the uplands, the amount of public money that goes into the uplands to farmers is £230 million a year. There are 70 million visits to the uplands, so it's £3.30 per visit. So whether you're driving a Skoda or a Porsche, if you're visiting a national park, £3.30 is not a lot, and it's probably less than you're going to pay for your coffee and scone. So in terms of what we're doing next, what we're looking at is how we can secure the magnitude. If there's no cake to divide up, then there's no discussion to have. So secure the magnitude of the money, the governance. So that's how you've got the verderers here, really critical, the role of interaction between themselves, the commoners, the Forestry Commission, National Trust, other interests. That's throughout the country. We have to look at governance. We have to commons-proof so that schemes work for commons as well as for enclosed land, and the distribution of money between different parties on a common. There will always be winners and losers. And I trained under a brilliant land agent called Alan Bow, and he said to me, Julia, if everyone's a bit unhappy, you've probably got it about right. Which might seem slightly negative, but it's actually the job of those negotiating is not to make everyone happy. You can't make everyone happy. But if you've got some people who are really happy and some people who are really upset, you've probably not got it right. I'm sorry, this is a bit light. But what's really important, if we're going to deliver at a landscape scale, we have to have that collective governance. And this is where commoning also provides examples for elsewhere. We know from John Lawton's report, bigger, better, more joined up, that delivering at landscape scale is critical. You do this really well in the New Forest, and other places can learn from that. I'm not in control of this machine here. So do go to our website, do write to your MPs. We've got an agricultural bill briefing available there. Really important if you can support the work of local commoners here, that's critical. Particularly, we've got opposition have supported amendments around including farming systems where they deliver natural and cultural heritage. So support for that would be really good. We've got commons proofing. Again, I won't go through the details of this. And I'd just like to say, again, this going back to this upland lowland, we're looking at commons across England. We're currently doing a big project, and we'd have loved to have done it across all commons, but it's looking at how do we deliver better outcomes. So it's not the best, it's better outcomes across the board. And we're working with a whole load of organisations nationally in order to deliver that. HLF have funded us to look at enabling collaborative management, reconnecting people with commons, and enhancing public benefits. And this we need to do across our work. And I'm just going to leave these up, because other people have mentioned a lot of this already about respecting local knowledge, using established networks, having clarity on rights. So these are what we have through our research over the last 6 years, have concluded are the attributes of successful management. If we get this right, it's how we do things as much as what we do, then we can continue to deliver those positive benefits from commoning. Thank you.